Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. 17 to 21, please.
Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkhaha yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate Nispruha sarvakamebhyah yukta ityuchyate tada yatha dipo nivatasthaha nengate sopama smrita yogino yata chittasya yunjato yogamatmanah Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam Veti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tattvataha.
We're on the second topic that deals with external and internal disciplines for meditation. And the previous verse that we concluded, he talked about the disqualifications. If you sleep too much, or awake too much, if you eat too much or don't eat at all. But these are all symbolic. They only mean how much do you contact the world. Either people indulge into various activities of the world, or they believe spirituality means you must shut yourself off. Don't contact the world at all. So these two extremities will not help. Also, your duration of contact. How much do you contact? Sleeping and waking. So either you are all the time in contact with the world or not at all. So these, any kind of extremities will not help. Now you may wonder why. Because every human being born into this world is born with a set of desires. In fact, unmanifest desires. These are referred to as vasanas. You are an expression of your own vasanas. That is each individual. So now that you are born into this world because of vasanas, you have a choice. One is, you increase your vasanas by indulging in the world, by contacting the world too much or too long, or you use your personality along with the vasanas only to get rid of the vasanas. The reason being, it's only when you are free from vasanas or desires. See, vasanas we cannot understand. It's a term used for the very cause of your personality. First of all, why are you born a male or female? Vasanas. Then what sort of a person are you? What sort of an environment do you choose? Why are you born in a particular environment, in a particular family, in a particular circumstance? All is decided by your own vasanas. You don't understand that. That's why the only way we can understand vasanas is by its expression. An expression of vasanas is desires. So what sort of thoughts do you have? What sort of desires do you have? What do you gravitate to? The world is like a buffet. It offers you so many things, but you pick certain things in the world. You gravitate automatically. Why so? Because of your own tendencies. So you could increase these tendencies by indulgence in the world, or you could use your present personality, vasanas and desires only to move towards the truth, the reality, which is the purpose of human life. See, why are we humans? How are we different from animals or plants? They're all living beings. So what is so special about being born a human? A human alone is gifted. It's a birthday gift. Every human is gifted with a faculty called buddhi, intellect. I'll put it on the screen for you, the difference between plants, animals, humans. You must know this. So, plants have a physical body, a physical existence. So do animals, so do humans. So these are the three equipments that we've been talking about from day one. Remember, we said the body is your outer personality, but it's only a vehicle that takes you from place to place. Right now, all your bodies are here, but you must also ensure that the other two faculties are also present here. The physical body by itself has no meaning. I attended the lecture. So if somebody asks you, what did you hear? Something I heard. Why? Because the mind was not available. Physically, you sat here. You can hear, but you may not be listening. Hearing because you have a ear to receive sound, but that has not been processed. You have not neither understood nor not understood, because there was no listening. Listening means receiving the knowledge and then staying with the knowledge. Like we said, don't leave the knowledge here and walk away. Carry these thoughts with you. And that is why they keep on talking about there is an e-learning. There are books that you need to read if you want to have basic knowledge to live in this world. So, plant, animal, human, all three have a physical existence, physical body. Now, plant has no mind, meaning it has no feelings, no emotions, no love or hatred, joy or sorrow, kindness or... It doesn't have all these emotions. Nor an intellect. It cannot think. That's out of the question. Now, in the case of an animal, animal has a body and mind. You know, if you have pets at home, especially a pet dog, so much affection the dog has, especially for the master. And if you leave the dog alone for some time and go, even every day, when you leave the dog in the morning and come back in the evening from work, jumping. The moment you ring the bell, it starts barking, because it knows the master has come back. So there's so much of emotion. They have feelings, but no intellect. It is not able to understand. Suppose you bring a friend home, it will start barking at the friend. You can't say, hey buddy, this is my childhood friend, don't bark at him. It doesn't understand. He has no intellect to understand. But your child would understand, even a small child would understand, Daddy has brought somebody home, some friend of his, may not know who. So even a child is able to think and understand, but not an animal. So that is the difficulty of an animal. It's only a human who is born with all three. When we say born, there is a potential to think. It's like muscle. You're born with muscles. Now, you may or may not develop your muscles to keep you strong till the last day of your life. See, by itself, the muscles grow until you become a youngster from birth, till the time you become a full adult. All the muscles naturally grow because of your activity. But thereafter, do you maintain it or not? That is up to you. So coming back, we have this choice to use the intellect understand the purpose of life. See, what are we doing in a classroom like this? We are not concerned about the body. We are not concerned about the mind. We are concerned about the intellect. There is a transaction of knowledge, of thoughts, of ideas. So you could say it is an intellectual exercise that is going on in this classroom. And the assumption is, if this is making sense to you, you're able to understand the reason and logic and see how you can apply it in your life, you will continue this intellectual exercise which will help you. Make proper choices in life. That's the idea, because every human being is responsible for his or her own life, whatever you do. So you could increase your desires, and if you increase your desires, what will happen? As Shankara tells us, again and again you go through this process of birth and death indefinitely, without understanding why am I born a human being. So the chief purpose, you're given this opportunity as a human, is to discover the truth of life. And that truth, that reality is your essential being. That is your true identity, not what you believe yourself to be today. See, our belief is so firm. I know who I am. This person, this height, this weight, this personality is such a firm belief, it's impossible to shake it. And that's why here we're giving ideas for you to think. Think again. You believe you know, but that is not the fact. You know, Mark Twain, he talks about the problem with people. We believe we know, but that is not true. That's why we need to suspect that we may not know the truth. And that is an opportunity for us to examine the truths. So even Joss Billings is an American humorist. He says the same thing in the same tone. I'll try and put it up for you on the screen. So Mark Twain, this is not the one. Mark Twain, he talks about how our understanding is incorrect. We believe we know, but it's not true. And Joss Billings, in the meantime, he says the trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance, but their knowing so many things which ain't so. The trouble with most folks is not so much their ignorance, but their knowing so many things which ain't so. Now here you are, Mark Twain. It ain't what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Same thought. Mark Twain and Joss Billings give us a similar thought process where he says, what gets us into trouble is not our ignorance, but being so sure about things which are not so. And I often bring this up. Alvin Toffler, he says, the illiterate of the 21st century, he talks about the illiterate of the 21st century, will not be those who cannot read or write. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So we all can read and write. He says, no, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, because we all can. But those who are not prepared to learn, unlearn, sometimes we may have to unlearn because we've got wrong ideas, and relearn. So coming back, this opportunity we have to seek the truth or develop more and more desires. So the way to get to the truth is to reduce your desires. And again, I'll put it up on the screen. There are 3 paths. We talked about yoga. There are 3 ways by which you can reach the truth. Here you have them. through action, karma yoga, through devotion, bhakti yoga, through knowledge, jnana yoga. So these are the three paths by which you reduce your desires, otherwise you're increasing desires. If you do not choose these three paths and plunge into this world and your life with no understanding how to live your life, then you will only increase desires. And if you increase desires, you get into the cycle of birth and death, which goes on endlessly. And all the problems are added on to your life. There's stress, there's strain, there's worry, there's anxiety. All of it gets added on because of unfulfilled desires. If there be one reason why we have problems, it is because of unfulfilled desires. You trace it down. You don't have to accept what is being said. Ask yourself, why do I get angry? Why do I have fear? Why am I jealous or envious? Any negative emotion, you examine it, the root cause will be desire. Analyze it. It's an exercise that you can go through by yourself. It's giving you statements here for you to verify. So if, on the other hand, you take up the disciplines, whatever that is, which is what we have been discussing all along, external and internal disciplines. Basically, these three, action, devotion, knowledge. Then you reduce your desires, you qualify to meditate, and through meditation, which is the final gateway to self-realization, God realization, or merging with the truth, becoming the truth. This is the process. Now, having said that, in the 16th verse, which we concluded yesterday, he talked about the disqualifications. What happens when you contact too much or don't contact at all, and prolong your contact, or you stay away from contact with the world. Extremes will not work, but you will have to do it with proper discipline. So in the 17th verse, he talks about the positive aspect of spiritual pursuit.
युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः युक्ताहार विहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य yogo bhavati dukkha.
To him who is regulated in eating and recreation, regulated in action, who is regulated in sleeping and waking, yoga becomes the destroyer of sorrow. Why destroyer of sorrow? Because sorrow is created when desires are not fulfilled. We already said that. As long as your desires remain unfulfilled, you will be restless. You will be anxious, you will go through some sort of stress or strain or worry or anxiety. So when you're going through these, you must understand, trace it back to some desire which is not fulfilled. So yoga, in the sense we saw just now, the three disciplines, discipline your actions. We are all performing actions from morning till night, from birth to death. All of us are performing actions. But the question is, what sort of actions are you performing? They could be selfish, they could be unselfish, or selfless. So wherever you are, you need to move to the next level. So if you are basically self-centered, thinking about yourself, you've got to turn that into being unselfish. If you're already there, there is still more to go to become selfless. Where the first verse, Karyam karma karoti yaha sa sannyasi cha yogi. Who is a sannyasi? Who is a yogi? One who does what he ought to do, when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. See, go back to Thomas Huxley, an Englishman, who gives the same idea. See, all these great thinkers, they had the similar thoughts on these various aspects of life. So he talks about how you must do what you ought to do. The very first verse of this chapter, he talks about that. When you have to perform your duties and obligations, like we said, when it ought to be done, not at another time. Perhaps the most valuable result of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do, when it ought to be done, whether you like it or not. It is the first lesson that ought to be learned, and however early a person's training begins, it's probably the last lesson a person learns thoroughly. So it's not easy. What? Karyam karma karoti yaha. Just to do what you ought to do moment to moment. You're sitting here. What are you supposed to do here? Listen to these ideas. We're not saying accept it. But are you listening or are you just hearing? Like we said, you are hearing because my voice is too loud. I won't let you sleep even if you feel sleepy. But it is just hearing. It may not be listening. But you will do your karyam karma for what you have come if you so much as listen. Receive these ideas without prejudice, for or against. Just because you agree doesn't mean you are listening. That's simple acceptance, very easy to accept. Or, just because you don't agree doesn't mean you're right. You've got to be able to receive the knowledge, examine it, find out if it's the right thing. How? By application, then you convert knowledge into wisdom. Remember we said, like food digested converts into physical strength. If food is not digested and is thrown out of your system, you don't have strength. You become weak. But it's only when it is digested, assimilated, it converts into physical strength. Similarly, these are thoughts given to you. It's food for thought. You got to receive it, think about it, reflect upon these ideas because they may not be clear initially. You've got to have patience, and with reflection, contemplation, you assimilate, digest, make it your own, then you become strong mentally. So, a person here, he says, who is regulated in eating, recreation, ahara, eating, vihara, recreation, and karma, action. Why these three? It's because this is called the traffic of life. We did say yesterday, you receive the world through your senses. Your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, skin. These are the gateways through which the world enters you. Then there is a reaction that sets in within your personality, and you respond back to the world. This is called the traffic of life. It works very much like a factory. You know, in the factory, you feed raw material, one end. Then the machinery processes the raw material, and then you get finished products. Same thing happens here. You receive information from the world. You perceive the world. You're seeing, you're hearing, you're smelling, you're tasting, you're touching. All this is going on. This is how you receive the world. Then there's a reaction that sets in. I like this. No, I don't like this. I want this. I don't want this. This is good for me. This is not good for me. Reaction within. And then you send responses back into the world. You go for something you like or something that is beneficial. These are the actions. So what we are told to do is, if you want a good quality of life, if you want a good product, what must you do? First thing is you got to check the raw material. If you feed low-class raw material, however good the machinery is, what sort of products will you get? So you've got to ensure raw material fed is of a good quality. Even if you feed good quality raw material, the machinery should be tuned in properly. The machinery is not good. Even the good raw material will not be processed correctly. So you could go to a temple for what? Worship. And then what do you end up doing? Fighting with people there. I came first, you came first, and all this fellow. You must have given that fellow some money. Where are you doing this? Temple. So though you find raw material is good, machinery is not tuned in. You can find problems in heaven. You will have a problem. See, even if you are married to a goddess, you will have a problem. So two men were discussing. One man said, my wife is an angel. Other fellow said, you're lucky, mine is still alive. So in life, it is not important who you meet. It is important how you meet. How do you relate? So if the machinery is tuned in, even if the raw material is not of a good quality, you will process it properly. But the machinery has to be tuned in. And then when you get the finished products, what do? Even if you get the finished products, what process do we go through usually to check? Quality control. Quality control. So you don't take it for granted. Oh, good raw material, machinery is good, products will be good. No. You quality control your product. Similarly, just because you have done everything right, you still have to check the responses. What sort of actions am I performing? So if you do all that, he just simply says, to him who is regulated in eating, eating is receipt, all the receipts that you receive from the world. Recreation is your reactions, which is going on in your mind and intellect. Regulated in action is the finished products. If you are regulated in all this and regulated in sleeping and waking, which we have already discussed in the previous verse, yoga becomes the destroyer of sorrow. So these are the disciplines you have to maintain so that you get over desires, reduce your desires, and then qualify for meditation. He continues.
Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate nisprihah sarvakamebhyah yukta ityuchyate tada. Yada viniyatam chittam atmanyevavatisthate nisprihah sarvakamebhyah yukta ityuchyate tada.
Again, an idiomatic construction, yada tada. When a perfectly controlled mind rests in the self alone, freed from desires for all objects, then it is said to be established in yoga. So, there are between the first and the third topics, I'll try and revise it when we have time, 12 times he repeats in different ways how one must control the senses and mind to qualify for meditation. I'm mentioning this is 12 times in three topics till the 24th verse. He goes on saying, you need to control the senses, you need to control the mind. Then alone will you be able to sit in the seat of meditation. Meaning you will actually qualify. Anybody can sit, but we don't know what you're doing. You can start off saying, Om, Om, very easy. If I say, sit in the proper posture, close your eyes, all of this place will not be enough. It will be gate crash because we are talking about meditation. We want to learn how to meditate. The process is very simple, but what is going on in you, only you know. Nobody else knows. So we say, Om, Om, 3-4 times you'll say. Then suddenly you'll say, Om, what is happening there? That Rakshasa, I don't know, that fellow, I told him to study, whether he's studying or not, and the neighbor's son, and again, Om, you come back to Om, again it goes home, and then Om. Who knows? Only you know. And then after 10 minutes, if you all open the eyes, now you open your eyes, how do you feel? You say, what a lovely feeling. You will say that. But only you, see, that's why Shakespeare says, to thine own self be true. Don't try and pretend. Don't try and impress anybody else. Are you honest to yourself, to your own conscience? Because you know best who you are. You know best what your weaknesses are. You know best what your strengths are. And you don't have to worry about others' opinions of you. Some people put you on a pedestal, you know you don't belong there. He's making a mistake. He thinks I'm somebody great. I'm not. Quietly walk away. Is that so? You're a great person. Is that so? Walk away. And sometimes you are condemned by people. And you know you don't deserve that. Now you don't go and fight with them and try and change their opinion. If they say you're the worst person on earth, is that so? Thank you very much. And walk away. You know who you are. Maybe take notes. Check. Am I that person? Did I do something like this? Sometimes you may not realize, so you can check. But if you're sure it does not apply to you, you don't have to worry. Why are they thinking like that about me? I am not such a person. It's so strange. People suffer because of others' opinions. Why do you suffer when somebody says something which is not right? See, you yourself say, what they're saying is very, very wrong. Okay, agreed. Then why are you getting upset? How can they say that? He's got the privilege to say whatever he wants. You've got the privilege to say, look, this doesn't belong to me. As simple as that. But you want to change others. You want to convince others. You're wasting your time. A great Swami Ram Tirtha, he said, correcting the world is like straightening a dog's tail. You try to straighten it, leave it, it'll go back to exactly where it was. See, if Christ and Krishna, Muhammad and Buddha could not change the world, how can you and I do it? The only person you can change is yourself. That you're not interested. You want to change everything, everybody except yourself. And that's the only person you can change. That's what we are trying to do here. Trying to be better humans. So, a perfectly controlled mind rests in the self. It's only when your mind is perfectly under control, then you can rest in the self. You're freed from desires. We said after the 3 disciplines, if you keep on following the disciplines, the desires will reduce to a few desires. See, we are all familiar, at least the temple goers are familiar. We take a coconut to a temple, isn't it? Now when you take a coconut, how do you take it? You take the green one? No. You take the brown, you take off all the fibers and then you leave a little bit, isn't it? Just a little bit of one tuft you leave and take it to the temple. Give it to the priest. Various other things, flowers and camphor and few things you take along with the coconut. So the priest, pujari there, receives the coconut. And what does he do? Takes the tuft out. That last bit. See, the coconut represents the human personality. Externally, it's so green and smooth. But inside, it's full of knotted fibers, full of that coir, lot of it. So when you start removing, these are your desires, your wishes, your wants, your demands. Everyone has it. So you keep on removing all that through the disciplines. And then you have only a few left. The few, what are those few desires? I must become a better human. I've got to find the self. I've got to find the truth. I've got this opportunity called life. I've got to fulfill the duty that I have to perform by realizing my own self. These few desires you have, and with that attitude, you don't have the egoistic feeling that I'll find my way. You go to a temple and surrender to a priest, meaning he is in touch with the sanctum sanctorum. You don't go there. You don't walk into it. You stop there and hand over. Because he is in touch with the truth, as it were. That is the role of a master, a guru, a teacher. because he is in touch with the truth all the time. He has dedicated his life to understanding the truth. He's in proximity with the truth. To such a person, you offer your personality. With the help of the teacher, he helps you remove the last bit of desires. And then what happens? What do you see when the tuft is gone from the coconut? 3 dots. See, we are seeing the world with 2 fleshy eyes. When you take on this knowledge, when you gain the highest truth, you begin to see this world with a 3rd eye. Now don't go around searching for something here. You will not find it. Artists put a 3rd eye here. It is again symbolic. It only means the eye of wisdom. You see this whole world through the eye of wisdom. You understand the meaning of whatever you are facing in this world. You're never in doubt, never in indecision, because you understand fully what this experience in this world is all about. And then, with the help of the Guru, you break the hard shell of the ego. You can't do it yourself. That's all symbolic. Otherwise, you break the coconut home and go and give it. No, it's a process to remind you that you cannot do this alone. That last part of the journey, you surrender to a master, and when the ego is surrendered, it breaks that hard shell, that hard ego, and then what is exposed is the pure white kernel, which is your true self. At least now when you go to the temple, you remember all this. Why am I taking a coconut to a temple? Otherwise, you take a coconut to a temple because you want to make chutney or coconut barfi. We don't understand. And you wait for the priest to give you the thing because you have to go home and make chutney. That's the only thought we have. So I told you about the book, The Symbolism of Hindu Gods and Rituals. It's all explained there. So coming back, it is when your desires are under control. You have only a few, and with the help of the teacher, you cross over, and then he says you are established in yoga.
यथा दीपो निवातस्थः नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यथा दीपो निवातस्थः नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः.
So from this verse 19 to 24, we are in the 3rd topic, where again he talks about how a controlled mind will remain peaceful. Again, it's about the mind being controlled. And what controls the mind? See, we've told you have a physical body, you have a mind, you have an intellect. So now we're saying the mind has to be controlled. By what? What is it that you have to control the mind? Anybody? Intellect, buddhi. Buddhi, see, subtler than the mind, stronger than the mind is your ability to think. Only human being, not an animal. Animal does not have buddhi. You may say, oh, but my dog is very intelligent. Do you take the dog for a walk, or the dog takes you for a walk? See, the dog may be intelligent, but it has a limitation. It can't do what a human being can do. There's no comparison. This is the era of going into space. That's the latest development, where there will be commercial flights to the tip of the space. That's what they are aiming to do. They already had a test flight in December. No dog or chimpanzee can do that. It's okay in the movies, but in reality that does not happen because they have limited intelligence. It's so minimal that for all practical purposes we say they can't think. But it's only a human who has the potential to think. So it's the intellect. And I did mention to you yesterday in the Vedanta Academy, what do we do? 3 years. All youngsters there. The average age is about 24. What are these young people trying to do? First of all, they're trying to understand what is this purpose of life. No subject in the world tells us that. Also, how do you develop the human personality? You have knowledge of science or medicine or engineering or business. You have a range of subjects in the world, but there's no subject that tells you who you are. Who is this human being? What is the purpose of your life? So Vedanta is that science that teaches you all about yourself. In fact, it introduces yourself to yourself. That's what it does. And also gives you the purpose of life and living. So in 3 years, with the curriculum, the whole idea is to develop the intellect. In the world, what you have is intelligence. See, when you take up any education in the world, what happens to a person? You become well informed in 1 or 2 subjects. You cannot be well informed in all subjects. It's not possible. So you go for a degree or you pick up some education, go to an educational institution, you spend time studying a subject, you gain information about that subject. You become well informed, you become intelligent. Then what do? With this intelligence, you go out into the world and exchange your intelligence for money. That's it. Your expertise, you say, I'll give it, but pay me for it. And that is how we earn a living. So with all the intelligence that you have gathered, you can only exchange it for wealth. But that doesn't help you to think clearly, doesn't help you to take decisions in your life, doesn't help you to relate to people, doesn't help you to understand yourself. In fact, even a very, very intelligent person could ruin his own health. So if you're so smart to make so much money, to be so successful, can't you take care of your health? Not possible. Why? No intellect. You can go to the extent of saying, even a good doctor who knows medicine very well, he is helping others to get health, maybe himself suffering from ill health. It's possible. He could be a chain smoker. He could be an alcoholic. It's possible. Knowing fully well, it's not good. Then you may ask, you are so smart, you're so intelligent, you're so successful in your field, why can't you help yourself? You got intelligence but no intellect. They're 2 different things completely. So when you gain values of life, when you study the scripture, when you understand how to live your life with these values, you are exercising your intellect. With an intellect, you may or may not have special information in a subject, but if you apply your intellect, you can be successful in life. But if it's mere intelligence, you can be successful, but you may not be able to handle your relationships, you may not be able to handle your food habits, you may not be able to handle your health, you may not be able to handle your children, your parents. All the other things can go out of gear. Only one thing you have achieved, intelligence. And you can earn a living. That's all. So, the whole idea here is to control the mind with an intellect that is developed. We have an intellect, but it's not developed. To put it in another way, which will make it easy for you to understand, the mind is like a child in you, the intellect is like an adult in you. So if you listen to the child in you, you're in trouble. If you learn to listen to the adult in you, you're safe. So we have to develop the intellect and use it. That will help us live our lives sensibly. So here he says, as a lamp in a windless place does not flicker, that simile reflects a yogi with subdued mind, practicing union with the self. So the mind is subdued, he's practicing union with the self. How? Like a lamp in a windless place, does not flicker. So, a lamp has that shade, or the protection. when you have a flame. So that protection is your spiritual discipline. That will protect you from being indulgent, from performing wrong actions that will hurt you. So you take on to the disciplines. The spiritual disciplines protects the mind from its own passions, from its own desires, from its own indulgences. So as long as you're disciplined, your mind will be under control, like a lamp in a windless place.
Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya yatra chaivatmanatmanam pashyannatmani tushyati.
When the mind, restrained by the practice of yoga, comes to rest, and when seeing the self alone by the self, it is satisfied in the self. So the self is repeated here, but if you notice, he says, when seeing the self, capital S, meaning the ultimate truth, the reality, alone by the self, this individuality, small s, it is satisfied. It, meaning your mind, is satisfied in the self. So today, where is your mind satisfied? In the world. So when you get a better home, you're satisfied. How long? For some time. Then the satisfaction goes. Again, you're looking for something else. Why not go on a holiday? Then your mind will be satisfied going on a holiday. How long? Finish the holiday, come back. Again, you're dissatisfied. Constantly you will have to find something to satisfy you. This is the nature of desires of the mind. But now he says, when the mind restrained by the practice of yoga, when you are disciplined, it's not that you don't have a holiday, it's not that you don't have a better home. You are not dependent on any of these things. You may have it, you may not have it. When you have it, you enjoy it. When you don't have it, you are still enjoying. Because your happiness is not dependent on these objects of the world. That is the discipline you will have to, first of all, get into and understand. Immediately you will not understand. How can you say that? Of course we will be excited when you get something. We'll be dejected if you don't get it. That is what is happening today, because you're leading your life based on the mind and its desires. But we're saying here, step up to the intellect and higher values, disciplines. Then you will be free from the dictates of your mind. It's like climbing a ladder. See, when you climb a ladder, you have to put your foot on the higher rung of the ladder, and when you're established there, then you can release yourself from the lower. But if you don't establish on something higher and release the lower, you come crashing down. You can't take it. You will break down. So he says, when the mind restrained by the practice of yoga, which is what we have discussed, the external and internal disciplines, comes to rest, is satisfied within, and when seeing, see, this is relative. First of all, you learn to be satisfied with what you have. See, already we have so much we are enjoying, we don't understand the number of things you're enjoying. You're only worried about a few things that you don't have. There's so many parables to tell us how these great souls who found the self, how they functioned. So the story goes, it's a parable. So don't ask me from where this parable came. It's one of those many stories that are given to show how you become self-sufficient with the knowledge of the truth. So there was a devotee of Lord Shiva, and he was suffering from elephantiasis. You understand? Area, when the leg swells up. He was having, Yanaka. So he was having that elephantiasis, and a devotee of the Lord. So the story goes that the Lord's consort, Parvati, she said, the goddess, she said, see, look at your devotee. He's in this condition. Should you not help him? So the Lord said, he is okay. What's wrong with him? She said, no, you should look after your devotees. You're not looking after. If you don't look after, they will switch to Lord Vishnu. Be careful. You know how wives are, no? So anyway, Lord Shiva said, all right, since you're insisting, not for the shift, but she's insisting, you've got to comply. So he came down, he appeared before the devotee and said, here, I grant you a boon. He says, Maharaj, you have given me everything. What more can you give me? He says, no, I insist. You should ask for something. So he was looking so helpless. What to ask the Lord? He said, all right, oh Lord, may you shift the elephantiasis from the right leg to the left. Now, he should have asked us. We know what to ask. You want me to ask a boon? 1 minute. One full list you will bring out. May my daughter be married to a nice boy, and the son get a good girl, and my husband put some sense into him, and the wife is... So many things we need. Here the person elephantiasis, he's not saying get rid of it. He's not saying that, shift it. Now this may sound like an absurd story, but it only shows that we are already enjoying so many things, but we're not aware. Therefore, there's dissatisfaction. Here's a case of complete satisfaction. So that will happen immediately. You come to rest means you will be happy with what you got and then aspire for more. Nothing wrong. You can aspire for the moon, the stars. You go as far as you want, not because of dissatisfaction. Completely satisfied, must you go further. And then if you keep going, he says, you will find the self alone. And in that you will find complete satisfaction. So one is immediate satisfaction while you progress on the path. When you reach the self, you find total fulfillment, or you reach a state of paripurna. Paripurna means total fulfillment.
Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tatvatah. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrahyamatīndriyam veti yatra na chaivayam sthitaschalati tatvatah.
When he knows the supreme bliss, when he reaches the ultimate state, which can be grasped by the intellect, which transcends the senses, and wherein established he never moves from reality. So he says, you will get to that state by using your intellect. That's what we're saying. You got to use your intellect constantly to guide your senses and mind. Until you reach there, you cannot rest content. You cannot take things easy. Which transcends the senses. That state, that happiness that you get is not what you get in the world. I got a better home, I'm happy. I got a better car, I'm happy. I got a raise, I'm happy. I've got recognition, I'm happy. See, these are connected to your physical body and mind. He says it transcends all these pleasures that you get in the world, far beyond. Wherein established, when you get to that point and get established there, never moves from that reality. It's something like refinement. See, a person is living in India and then suddenly he moves to the US or UK or some place, and then he was living in a small chawl-like place, or you can say even in a village, and then he's transferred and he goes there. He tastes a better quality of life. A fellow was born here, he was brought up here, he lived in the streets here, but suddenly he moves to another place where he sees a different lifestyle completely. He stays there for a few years, 10, 15 years, whatever, and he comes back to his hometown. Everything is strange to him. You say, hey, hello, you were born here, you grew up here, now suddenly why you're behaving like that? He's unable to explain, he's uncomfortable. He says, no, but you guys are not clean, you're not there. Same place you are also playing, you try to tell him. But he has tasted a higher quality of life. Once he tastes that, he can't reduce and come to something which is less refined. So you must understand it's a kind of refinement. Once you taste that refinement, you can never settle for anything less. This is the highest refinement, to gain the knowledge of yourself. Once you get there, you don't ever settle for anything less, is what he's saying. And he continues.
Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate. Yam labdva cha param labham manyate nadhikam tatah yasmin sthito na dukkhena gurunapi vichalyate.
And having obtained which he thinks no other gain superior to it, wherein established he is not moved even by great sorrow. So the greatest sorrow can come to you, the greatest happiness can come to you, you remain untouched, unaltered, unmoved. Why? Because you've tasted something far superior. See, that explains why when Christ was crucified, see, he was going through physical pain. He was supposedly nailed on the cross. So there's maximum physical pain. Not only that, he gave love to the people, and this is what they returned. They did not understand his feelings. So his feelings were rejected. There's mental pain, apparently. And whatever thoughts he tried to share with the people, they rejected it at that time. So you could say here was somebody who went through maximum physical, emotional, intellectual pain, and yet, nailed on the cross, he looked up to the heavens and said, Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. How can you have that attitude when you are facing the highest sorrow? Because he has transcended. He has gone beyond it. Today, if somebody tells you something, you get so irritated. How dare you talk to me? Do you know who I am? You do not know who you are. Huh? And you're getting upset and fretting and fuming and starting at home, You start with your own wife or husband. The fight starts in the morning. First thing in the morning it starts. That's why neighbors are all keeping the windows open. Today, let us see what happens in this house. Because it starts in the morning. You keep quiet. You don't talk to me like that. Who are you? Who are you to talk to me? The children are very happy because they know once the parents are fighting, they have free time. They can do whatever they want. Every household, you have these disturbances. Little things can upset you. Here is a person who has tasted the highest joy, highest experience beyond which there is nothing to be known. That's what he's explaining here. Continues.
Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanchitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yoga nirvinna chetasa. Tam vidya dukkha samyoga viyogam yoga sanchitam sanishchayena yoktavyaha yogo nirvinna chetasa.
Let that be known as the yoga of severance from the union with pain. That yoga should be practiced with determination and with an undespairing mind. So first of all, he is giving a negative aspect of the spiritual pursuit. He's not talking about the positive bliss. But here he's saying, first detach yourself from the union with sorrow. And that will happen only when you turn introvert. See, when your attention is upon the world of things and beings, you must understand this. The world is in a constant flux of change. Nothing remains the same. This is the nature of the world. Not only that, your own mind keeps changing. Your thoughts are changing. So you are changing and you're expecting the world to constantly cater to your mind and intellect. How is that possible? The simple thing like weather. If you like cold weather, you will constantly complain, Chennai is so hot, Chennai is so hot, Chennai is so hot. Whole year you'll be complaining, except for 1 or 2 months in December. that's all you feel happy. Rest of the year you'll be complaining. Because you expect things to go according to your frame of mind. That expectation happens when your interest and attention is upon the world. If you turn inward, you say, let the things be as they are. You assess the world, you assess your environment, you assess the people you are with at home and at work, you assess the country you're living in, you are able to assess everything around you and accept things for what they are, accept people for what they are, not what you want them to be, however right you are. You may say people should be honest, but they are dishonest. You've got to learn to see realities. But if your attention is upon the world, when you're extrovert, expectations are very high. And when you don't make proper assessment, your expectations are high, you will be disappointed, you will be agitated. Whose fault is it? It's your fault to make wrong assessment or not assess. And then, even if you've assessed, you don't accept it. And then you are disappointed. So people will continue the way they are. No, you will be fretting and fuming all the time. So he says, when you turn inward, first thing that happens is you will be free from sorrow. That is symbolized by Sita sitting in Ashokavanam. In the Ramayana, she refused to enter the golden palace of Ravana. It's symbolic. So the golden palace of Ravana means the 10-headed monster. What are the 10 heads? 5 sense, the 5 organs, sense organs of perception, 5 organs of action. When you are a victim of your own senses, then you will suffer. But though Sita crossed that Lakshmana Rekha, that's when she fell prey. She was told, do not cross this line, no matter what. When you cross that line, you become captive of your senses. But even though that happened, she refused to indulge. She refused to enter the golden palace. So what status did she enjoy? Ashokavadam. Meaning, shoka is sorrow, ashoka is non-sorrow. So it's only when she regained her status with Lord Rama, she got back the bliss. But until that point, she was in a state of non-sorrow. That means you're on the spiritual path. So when you are on the spiritual path, you are free from this union with pain. Meaning, you don't suffer. But you may not have yet tasted that positive bliss. That may not have happened. But you're free from all agitations and all worries and anxieties. You'll be free from that. That yoga, therefore, those disciplines should be practiced with determination. It's not casual. It's not 5 evenings in 1 year. It has to be every day. Just as you eat every day, you sleep every day, you bathe every day, everything you're doing on a daily basis, even the study has to be done every day. If you do that, then you will have an undespairing mind. That is the way you find your path to the truth.
Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvana sheshatah manasaivedriya gramam viniyamya samantatah. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman tyaktva sarvana sheshatah manasaivedriya gramam viniyamya samantatah.
Abandoning without reserve all desires born of sankalpa and completely restraining the group of senses from all quarters by the mind. How many times he's repeated the same thing. And this chapter is Dhyana Yoga. And people are expecting something about meditation should come. Nothing is coming. He's only saying control the body, control the mind. Control the body, control. Because you got to remember what example that we gave yesterday? Huh? piston and cylinder. Please don't forget. Please don't forget that. The whole thing is preparation. 99.9% preparation. You become meditative. You become contemplative. You don't have to worry. But if you don't practice these disciplines and sit in the seat of meditation, then we told you what happens. Once, twice, thrice you can repeat. Thereafter the mind goes one chakkar, it will go, goes for one round, comes back. Again you do om, om, om. Again it goes somewhere else. And you cannot. See, some of you may be wondering, very quickly I'll tell you, it's like target shooting, you understand? The concentric circles with bullseye in the center. So when you first learn to shoot, you can't hit the target. Even if you shoot, it's going somewhere else. So to learn to hit the target itself takes a lot of time, maybe months. I don't know how long it takes. And then every time you take aim, you manage to hit the target somewhere. With a lot of practice, much, much more practice, will you be able to hit bullseye, that red dot in the center. Not every time. I hit bullseye, bullseye. You get so thrilled because after maybe 100 attempts, one attempt, by fluke, you hit bullseye. So concentration. First of all, you should learn to concentrate. If you're here for 1 hour, 15 minutes, are you here? Are you concentrating? I don't know. You've got to ask yourself. Usually not. And we expect that because it's not possible. That's why we have to give stories, a little joke, or something to keep you here. If you only talk philosophy 100%, it will make you sleep. It's not possible. You can't concentrate. It's difficult. So unless you are trained to concentrate in any activity that you are made to perform, that is hitting the target, it is impossible to hit bullseye. So concentration is hitting the target. Hitting the bullseye is meditation. So now you calculate what your chances are. When you're not even able to hit the target, how are you going to be able to hit bullseye? You can, with a lot of practice. So that's what he's saying. Abandoning without reserve all desires born of sankalpa by the disciplines and completely restraining the group of senses from all quarters by the mind. That is the way to reach the highest truth. He continues.
Shanai shanairuparamid buddhya dhriti grihitaya atma samstham manah kritva na kinchidapi chintayet. Shanai shanairuparamid buddhya dhriti grihitaya atma samstham manah kritva na kinchidapi chintayet.
We enter the fourth topic where he discusses how meditation will reveal the self in one and all. From this verse on, verse 25 to 32. So here he says, little by little let him withdraw by the intellect held firm. So you can't do this overnight. You have to use your intellect, your buddhi, and held firm. Little by little you will progress. Having established the mind in the self, let him not think of anything else. Again, this verse can be taken in a relative sense. It can be taken in the absolute sense, where you actually sit in the seat of meditation. So even if you're fully prepared, you've gone through all the disciplines, the mind is under control of the intellect. He says, you got to keep applying yourself in this discipline. Little by little, you withdraw by the intellect, you withdraw the mind from the world and focus the mind on single thought to the exclusion of all other thoughts. See, when you focus the mind on a field of thoughts, like we're doing here, in this hour or more than an hour that we spend together, we are thinking of various thoughts, but in a philosophical context only. We're not talking engineering, we're not talking medicine, we're not talking business, we're talking philosophy. But it's a field of field of thoughts. So when the intellect can hold your mind in this field of thoughts, then you are set to concentrate. But it's a field. So your mind doesn't slip to other fields of thought. It remains in this field of thought, philosophy. That's it. Then you're concentrating. But when your mind is made to focus on a single thought, it can be any thought. You can say Hari Om or Om or whatever thought you want to repeat. Mantra, a mantra. So what is happening? The mind is a flow of thought. It is repeating the mantra over and over again. That is the function of the mind. The intellect is awareing the thought flow. It's aware. There is Om, silence. Om, silence. Om, silence. So the intellect is constantly watching the mind. If it goes home, it brings it back. It will not allow the mind to go anywhere. So that is what he's talking. Little by little, let him withdraw the mind by the intellect, held firm. Holds the mind in that single thought. Having established the mind in the self, when the thought is on the self, let him not think of anything else. So this is the discipline in meditation. And he continues.
Yato yato nishcharati manaschancalamassthiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet. Yato yato nishcharati manaschancalamassthiram tatastato niyam yaitat atmanyeva vasham nayet.
By whatever cause the unsteady and restless mind wanders away, restraining it from that, let him bring it under control of the self alone. We've already explained that. So the mind has a tendency. It has got two qualities, astiram and chanchalam. It is unsteady and restless. This is the nature of the mind. So the mind will want to wander. By whatever cause the unsteady and restless mind wanders, if by chance it slips somewhere, restraining the mind from that wandering, let him bring it back under control of the self alone. So now he's using self because it's the ultimate state. But even in a relative sense, the intellect exercises that control over the mind. Even after a whole lot of discipline, that aspect will continue till the end. The intellect controlling the mind's activities. And he continues.
Prashantamanasam hyenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutamakalmasham. Prashantamanasam hyenam yoginam sukhamuttamam upaiti shantarajasam brahmabhutamakalmasham.
Verily, supreme bliss comes to this yogi whose mind is perfectly tranquil, whose passion is calmed, who is sinless and has become Brahman. So this is the way, we said, meditation reveals the self. So this is the way to get to that final state, is what he's saying. That supreme bliss, which is not dependent on the world. That happiness, that bliss which everyone is seeking is not in the world outside, but within oneself. And you will discover that when you follow this whole discipline and get there. So verily, supreme bliss comes to this yogi who has followed the disciplines, whose mind is perfectly tranquil, passions calmed, sinless. Now why these three? Because it's in a different order, but when he says Shanta Rajasam, passions are calmed, he has crossed the activities of the gross body. See, the passions are there, the indulgence are there. you're no more a victim of the demands of the body. You've crossed that. That is, you are able to successfully hold the body's activities under control. Then he says, mind is perfectly tranquil. So because the desires are reduced, we did say, with the disciplines, you'll be offloading desires. It is unfulfilled desires that give you agitations in the mind. So now that your desires have reduced to almost just a few which cannot agitate you, your mind is perfectly tranquil. Then he says, sinless. Sinless in the context means no agitations. Agitations are caused by unfulfilled desires. So when your desires are gone, when your vasanas are gone, there is nothing that can agitate you. So therefore, when the mind is free of agitations, it is sinless, meaning desireless, meaning vasanaless. So you've crossed your gross body, you've crossed your subtle body, the mind is tranquil, the subtle body which is within you, and the causal body, your vasanas. Remember we said everyone is born with vasanas. So you've crossed even the vasanas. And then when you cross your vasanas, you become Brahman. You become one with the self. In fact, human minus desires equals God. You can put that equation. Human minus desire equals God. God plus desire equals human. So in all religions, the major religions, desire is personified as the devil standing between human and God. So in Christianity, Satan, Islam, Shaitan, Buddhism, Mara, Hinduism, Asura, Zoroastrianism, Ahriman. Now you can find out, you can Google and get all these answers. But it only means that desire is standing between you and the truth. If you take away desire, what remains is the truth, Brahman. We'll continue tomorrow. Thank you.